Hey! Yo everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing DC Universe Rebirth, All-Star Batman Volume 1, My Own Worst Enemy. So Scott Snyder, without a doubt, one of the biggest, most important Batman creators in the past 10 years. And this goes even before the New 52, when he was writing Dick Grayson and did the fantastic story of the Black Mirror. He just had such a cerebral take on Batman, and when he came to the New 52, when it came time for the New 52 initiative, he took up the mantle of writing Batman, and he took it proudly. And he brought Batman to places that we've never been before, and reinvented different kinds of stories that we've seen before, but now in a different light. With stuff like the Court of Owls, or Death of the Family, or Zero Year, or Super Heavy, or whatever the story may be, he took Batman to a new level, and he told fantastic stories. Very cerebral stories. But when it came time for the Rebirth Initiative, the mantle of Batman writer was transferred to Tom King, and Scott Snyder wasn't really doing anything at all. At least not that we knew of. A little bit later into the Rebirth saga, we had an announcement that he was going to be taking up the title of All-Star Batman, which previously was only used in the Frank Miller, Jim Lee Elseworld comic story, which not going to talk about right now. That's a different story for a different time, although I did review it years ago. But this was a rebirth of sorts for the title itself, and also a different approach to Scott Snyder on his writing. Because Scott Snyder told big stories, really big stories, whether it be with enemies or situations, or with personal, internal struggles with characters. Whatever they may be, it were big stories. This, he wanted to tell more quieter, humbler stories. And not just that, we don't see his badass buddy Greg Capullo on the book. No, the dynamic duo got split up for this, and rather Scott decided to take an approach of having a different artist on the book with each story arc. Now, this is also coupled with the fact that Greg Capullo decided to step back for a little bit to do some more indie and personal work, but he has since come back to do DC Metal, and who knows what else he'll be on. But we're not talking about Greg Capullo here. We're talking about Scott Snyder. And that's exactly what All-Star Batman is supposed to be. Smaller, more humble stories with an all-star lineup of artists. And the first artist to jump on here is John Romita Jr. Now, before I even get into the story, I got to talk about John Romita Jr. I personally am not the biggest fan of him. It's not because his work is bad. No, by no means. Actually, his work is really fun to look at. I particularly like what he's doing in Silencer right now. But my first exposure to him, and mind you, I've had limited exposure, was in the Captain America series back when the Marvel Now started up. And since then, I've seen him in Captain America, I've seen him in Batman, I've seen him in Silencer. So, getting this exposure to him has been a good thing, because the one thing I've learned is John Romita Jr.'s art is bloody, and it is brutal, and everyone looks like they're just about to fall apart in it, and there's some kind of charm to that. But we'll get to that in the good, the bad, and of course whether or not you should get it. The basic story about My Own Worst Enemy, Volume 1, is that Two-Face, or rather Harvey Dent, contacts Batman and says, I have a cure, you know, for me, because I'm all screwed up. Two-Face is one angle, and Harvey's coming from another. I want to burn Two-Face out. And Batman's like, yeah, bruh, I'll help you out. I will definitely help you out. But at the same time, Two-Face put a hit on Batman and says, if you guys do not stop Batman from succeeding in his task of burning out the Two-Face persona, I will release every single dirty secret that Gotham has. Every person that lives in Gotham has some kind of secret, whether it be a really big secret or even a small personal one. Either way, Two-Face has it, and he's willing to release it if Batman succeeds in his mission to free Harvey Dent from the constraints of Two-Face. So everyone, every Gotham warlord to hired hitmen, from KG Beast to Copperhead to Cheshire to Killer Moth and everything in between, they're all gunning for Batman because they want the reward, and they don't want his little dirty secret out, or their dirty secrets out. So, good, bad, whether or not you should get it. Good. I love using Two-Face in this. He is one of my favorite Batman villains. Not my favorite, but in the top 5, right? I think I like Ra's al Ghul, and I think I like Bane a little bit more. And maybe Hush, but I don't know. We'll go into that a little later. But I love seeing Two-Face get some love, because really he hasn't got much. I mean, he had his Batman and Robin story arc that was going on, but besides that, he hasn't had too much in New 52 or in Rebirth. Seeing him in this and seeing how dangerous he is without even lifting a finger, because Two-Face doesn't do much physically. No, really it's more or less the hold he has on Gotham and his people. That's the scary thing, and it makes Two-Face even more of an intriguing character here. We get to see Batman work with Duke some more, and I really do like to see that, because I think Duke is a really good character that needs some more development where he can get it. Mostly Scott Snyder has been nurturing him, but now he has his own miniseries coming out from DC Metal, so it's good to see that he's getting some more love. But they do a pretty good job in this, and not just that, but the backup issues is Duke's own story too. So each issue of the All-Star Batman and Robin comic had a backup story, which was about Duke. Although I do have to say I wasn't as intrigued by the Curse Wheel story arc as I was about the My Own Worst Enemy story arc, which is the Batman one, but that's neither here nor there. It's good that he got some development in there. The action is great in here. I mean, again, John Romita Jr. does really good job at showing people get beat up. Like, Batman just looks like he gets put through the ringer in this, as well as everyone else. He's just tattered cape, bullet holes, stab wounds, half his face is burnt, acid, like, on a whole, he just looks beat up. Not just that, but a lot of the Batman villains, too, that are going after him. And it's really quite enjoyable to see this kind of action, right? To see him kind of, in Scott Snyder described it, it's like Mad Max Fury Road, and it's survival, and that's what it is, survival, and I love how the art translates that. Not just that, but I think John Romita's version of Two-Face is really cool looking. I love the black and the red. It's almost very devilish. Although the red and the black and the white will always be my favorite from the animated series, because I think it shows that duality. But the red and the black looks really good. And I mean, I'm telling you, you see everyone here. Even the Royal Flush Gang shows up for like 2 seconds or 2 panels. But yes. And I think the pacing of the story is overall very well done. I had no complaints with the pacing or the dialogue. With Scott Snyder, there's a lot of heavy dialogue in this. That's one of his trademarks, for ill or for good. But I think it worked in the favor of the book more than anything. Bad. The backup wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Nothing against the Curse Wheel and nothing against Duke. I like him as a character. I just think a backup is not the best place for him to get developed. And putting all that aside, I think this was a relatively strong story. Not the strongest that Scott Snyder has put out, but it's definitely a step up from his Bloom/super heavy story arc. Because Scott really was on a perpetual upward movement with his stories, but once he hit, after Endgame, once it hit Bloom and Super Heavy, it started to get not quite as